I've mixed close to 1,000 songs. I've been working full-time in the music industry for about 6 years, and I'm selling off a lot of my gear. And here's why. I am someone who has accumulated, a lifetime, or at least well over going on 2 decades of collecting pedals, guitar pedals, interfaces, all sorts of little knickknacks, right? Microphones, multiple sets of studio monitors. And I've realized that I use barely any of it day to day. And so what I want to tell you about in this video is why I've come to the reasoning that the best move is going to be to actually get rid of it and not just keep it around. And also make a case for what I'm doing and why it just doesn't make sense to have so much clutter when you're in a creative industry, when you're making music and you're surrounded by at some point, I'll never call music gear junk, but at some point it can become junk when you don't use it. Okay. I was talking to a friend, quick story. This will make sense. And he's moving to the Netherlands to go study there. And he's gotten rid of and sold off most of his personal belongings because moving overseas with, a lifetime of possessions, it's not necessarily that easy of a thing to do. So you kind of got to cut down when you make a big move like that. And he's gotten really into minimalism. And we were talking about it. And he said, if you're not going to use it or you don't see yourself using it in 6 months, it has to go. Now, for me, from a music standpoint, let me go through that exercise with you, but let's spread it out to maybe 2 years, okay? Just to be fair, just to put a little buffer on it, just so you don't get rid of, your favorite amp head from childhood and you regret it in a few months. Look, if you don't see yourself using it within the next 1 to 2 years, you probably don't need it, friend. And I get there are all sorts of reasons and all sorts of things that we attach to these pieces of music gear. But there's a way to break through that nostalgia to move yourself forward instead of living in the past surrounded by relics of a music period gone by. So let's start. Less is more. Owning fewer items can enhance your creative focus. It really can. So, for example, one thing I got over here is a MIDI controller, and I've got another one over here, like a smaller version of that same MIDI controller. And then over there, I've got a drum pad for MIDI controls. And it's like, I only need one of these to do the job. And I have to now maintain, I air dust my studio and do all the things that I hope you're doing too. I got to maintain all these different pieces of gear, and I really only need one of them to do the job. Here's the thing, the music studio, the home studio at least, kind of scene, has this, a reputation of like whoever has the most stuff has the coolest studio, is going to make the coolest music. And I've just found that not to be the case. Some of the best producers I know have a laptop and are on the road, They've got maybe an SM7 mic, an interface, and their laptop. It's just different now, okay? And once you start realizing you can actually cut down on these things, you start to have more of an intentional living. You can focus on the things that truly add to your music production. And a big part of this is a lot of it we can now do in the box. Look, friend, if you're not a touring guitar player, like this is my thing, right? Like I'm a guitar player. I have a box of pedals in my closet. Like there's tons of pedals, dozens maybe, of ones that I haven't even opened those boxes up in years. And so the thing for me is like I used to play in bands and, I think of the pedal board I had set up and it's nostalgic, It's like, I don't want to sell this pedal. That's when I played in this band and I had this effect and we did this cover song and it was awesome. But what you have to realize about that kind of weird gear nostalgia thing is it's not the piece of gear, It's the physical piece of equipment isn't the memory. The memory is the memory. And so here's how I've been able to start letting go of things that I don't need and putting them up on a marketplace, Kijiji, whatever, wherever you do your deals. I will take photos of the things, not just to upload to those sites, but for my own records, my own memory. I don't need the physical piece of gear, but I do have this kind of weird personal fear that when I get rid of something, I'll forget it forever, and then this part of me was lost. And probably there's more inner work to do to let go of that. But the way I've gotten around it for now, and that can really help, is I'll just take pictures of the thing. For example, I had a Sapphire Pro. I actually have another one here that's going to go next. And these are Firewire interfaces. I'm not running a Firewire system anymore. I'm all on like Thunderbolt now, and if it can handle a Thunderbolt adapter, like that's what I'm running in my studio. So the Firewire gear has to go. And it's cool and it's nice, but do I want to be dusting these off all the time? Do I want it taking up space in my room? It can look cool, but I've outgrown it, you see? And letting gear go will help me focus on where I am now in my current creative process. So again, with that piece of gear, I had to ask myself, am I going to be using this within the next 1 to 2 years? And the truth about that piece of equipment in particular was no. And especially so because the technology is getting more and more outdated. So if you have outdated technology, consider taking a photo of it. And unless you see it being a valuable vintage piece of gear in the future, get what you can for it now. There are people who are going to be able to use these pieces of equipment still for a while. But in me moving forward, I need to let things go. And the other kind of positive of this is by selling things, I've done all sorts of gear deals, whether I'm buying something or I'm selling something. I've met all sorts of cool people in the music industry. And I would say in many of those cases, that relationship that I made with that person, we're all kind of the same in a way. Even if we're different, we can all relate to our love of music and enjoying music equipment. And in some cases, those relationships have been worth more than the guitar pedal switch or whatever too. So by becoming kind of a gear miser, you're not able to participate in this fun marketplace of music exchanging and meeting. Like people have whole music networks based around a gear swap group online or a forum. So there are all sorts of kind of pieces of this puzzle and reasons why it's okay to thin down your equipment. Like one thing I'm doing now as well is I have, I've always kind of tooted the horn of you need multiple sets of monitors to do referencing. And I mixed that way for years. But now I have, I have some 8-inch speakers, some 7-inch speakers, and I have the mix cube. And the 8-inch ones are just a little bit too big for this room. And I used to check mixes on them. But the reality is the software now that I can do this with, for example, the Slate VSX headphones, where I can listen in, a couple different cars, on a boombox in the club, different mastering studios. This does a better job of referencing for me. And even the Sound ID reference technology, them making that flip between, those speakers. So it doesn't make sense for me to have them here. Well, they look kind of cool. Might look cool in a video. Might look cool for that shot of me sitting behind my desk on my website or something like that. But do I even use them day to day? I used to when I was switching between them, when I was first transitioning to the new speakers and getting to know them. But now that I've phased those out, no, I don't need them at all. It's interesting because we kind of surround ourselves with these seasons of our music career through the gear we've accumulated. Like I have my first guitar still sitting next to me, and that's something that I don't need to let go of because I still use it all the time. But do we really want to fall into this consumerism trap where we just accumulate, and never let go. You see, this music game, friend, it's not about having a bunch of gear. The only thing it is about is a sound that comes out of the speakers. It's that wave file that you upload for everyone to listen to. It's that album you make. And if you just have pieces of gear you're not using all sitting around that aren't contributing the creation of that stereo wave file, okay, or Dolby for the audiophiles, it's not helping you. You're stuck in a cluttered studio, and it could be leading to mental clutter too. Think of all the distractions when you're trying to produce a song and you literally can't decide which amp sound to use because you want to test out all the different possible things in your studio and all the different pedals. When you know there's that one amp that you use for 99% of things, and the other 1% you could find a plugin for. You know what I mean, friend? So it's kind of a more sustainable way of being too. Finding a minimalist approach to things. So this is something I'm working on personally, and it's a message I wanted to share. And I know this video is a little bit informal, but I wanted to make it because I'm redefining success for me. As a mixer, as a producer, as a music maker, as a creative. Success isn't about having gear, accumulating the best gear, having the flashy studio. It's about making the best music. And I think it's quite impressive the guy who can make incredible sounding music with less. You know, I think that's quite impressive versus needing to be surrounded by a ton of things, a collection of gear, and even when we get into software, a collection of plugins maybe you rarely use. Maybe you don't want to sift through all that junk in your plugin list. Maybe there are a few plugin bundles and companies you have that you use for everything. And there's that one demo that you got, but you have 3 other plugins that are better. Do you want to have to scroll past it every time you're looking for something? Uninstall, streamline your workflow. Get more efficient. Music is now becoming about efficiency. And I'm not telling recording studios or gear enthusiasts, sell all your stuff. I know that having options around your studio can also help feed the creative process. So I know I'll probably see some comments about that. But I'm sharing what's working for me right now. And me as a solo kind of one-man operation, where my primary goal and mission is mixing music, in which I've done now close to 1,000 songs, landing on Spotify playlists, you know, that list of, you know, accomplishments that every producer has to throw in their bio and whatnot. I've realized after all of it, there's a lot of this I don't use, I don't need, and that I can start to let go of. And I think that's going to clear out some mental space for me to move into the minimalist studio that makes incredibly good sounding music. And if you resonated with this message, I encourage you to do it too. Ask yourself, this thing that's just been sitting here all these years, am I going to need it 1 to 2 years from now? Answer is yes. Okay, fine, fair enough. Answer is no. Answer the next question in the flow chart. Is this going to be worth an insane amount of money in the future? Answer is yes. Well, okay, you got something cool. Hold on to it. Answer is no, which 99% of the time it probably is. Get it on GG, get it on Marketplace, whatever you use, eBay. make a new friend. If you enjoyed this video, I think, it's been great speaking with you, and I hope you found a friend in me too. So subscribe, leave a like on the video, and leave me a comment letting me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one.